My name is
Ladies and
David
gentlemen,
Chen.
welcome to the most insane mega ramp in GTA 5 history. I'm talking sky-high stunts, zero-gravity jumps, and crashes so wild, buckle up because this ride's gonna be absolute chaos.
Older than me. We were close growing up, typical sibling bond mixed with underlying competition. Our parents divorced when I was 8. I went to Dad, she went to Mom. When they both died, Mom to cancer, Dad to a heart attack, we became each other's only family. Then Sophie was born when I was 34. Her mother Alicia left when Sophie was 6 weeks old. She wanted to travel, to live. I got full custody. I was good at being a father. Sophie was everything to me. Victoria became obsessed with Sophie in a way that felt wrong. She'd show up unannounced. She'd criticize how I dressed her, what I fed her, my parenting overall. You can't raise a girl alone, she'd say. She needs a woman. When Sophie was 4, I started dating Jennifer, a nurse from my hospital. Jennifer was wonderful with Sophie. Patient, funny, kind. Sophie adored her. After 8 months, Jennifer moved in. That's when everything exploded. A knock on my door at 6:45 a.m. Police. A CPS investigator named Carol Menson. They had a report. I was physically and emotionally abusive toward Sophie. I'd locked her in closets, withheld food, hit her. I laughed. Surely this was a mistake. It wasn't. They examined Sophie in my living room while I stood there in shock. She was terrified. I was furious, but I was also confident this would be resolved quickly. I had no history of violence. I was a stable, loving father. I called my friend Marcus, a lawyer who referred me to Robert Hartwell, a family law attorney. I thought this would be handled in days. I was catastrophically wrong. 2 weeks later, Victoria called. She'd never called me before. I need to tell you about some things I've noticed with Sophie, she said. After that CPS visit, I felt obligated to speak up. I hung up. But she didn't stop there. Victoria filed for emergency custody. She submitted a sworn affidavit claiming she'd witnessed me physically abusing Sophie. She claimed Sophie had said Daddy hit her. She submitted photos from family gatherings, claiming they showed bruising and neglect. They showed a healthy, happy child, but taken out of context, they looked sinister. She even paid extended family members to corroborate her story. The custody hearing was devastating. I sat there watching my sister systematically dismantle my character in front of a judge. The CPS investigation was still ongoing. The judge, erring on the side of caution, ordered me to undergo psychological evaluation and parenting classes. A court-appointed monitor would check on Sophie twice a week. It was humiliating. It was terrifying. It was completely unjustified. The psychological evaluation took 3 months. Dr. Amanda Foster concluded that I showed no signs of being an abuser. My parenting was healthy and normal. The CPS investigation concluded there was insufficient evidence of abuse. The case should be closed. I thought it was over. I was wrong. Victoria came back with a new allegation: sexual abuse. She claimed Sophie had told her I'd touched her inappropriately, that Sophie had described specific acts. I cannot describe what that accusation felt like. It wasn't anger, it was existential horror. My entire identity erased and replaced with something monstrous. Sophie was immediately removed from my home and placed with Victoria. I was forbidden from contact except supervised visitation. Sophie was sent to a child psychologist for forensic evaluation. I didn't sleep for 3 weeks. The psychologist's report was clear. Sophie showed no signs of sexual abuse. Her behavior was consistent with a child who hadn't been abused. Crucially, the psychologist noted Sophie had been coached. She kept repeating scripted, unnatural phrases a 4-year-old would never naturally say. The new CPS investigator was named Patricia Gould. She was thorough, and what she found was devastating to Victoria's case. Victoria had made similar allegations against someone else in her 20s. That man had been investigated, cleared, and sued Victoria for defamation. They'd settled with Victoria, paying substantial money. The record was sealed, but Patricia accessed it through law enforcement channels. Patricia also discovered Victoria had been diagnosed with factitious disorder by Poxy, a psychological condition where someone fabricates or exaggerates incidents in others to gain attention, sympathy, or control. She'd been in therapy for years, documenting this pattern. Even more damning, Victoria stood to inherit a significant portion of our parents' estate when Sophie turned 21. If Victoria had custody, she'd have access to a six-figure trust fund. Patricia brought everything to the judge. The custody case was dismissed. The sexual abuse allegations were determined to be false. The original CPS determination that I wasn't an abuser was upheld and finalized. Victoria wasn't criminally charged for filing false reports, though I never understood why. For 3 months, Victoria and I didn't speak. Then she called. "I need to tell you something," she said. "There's someone I want you to meet. Not in person. She's going to call you. She has information about Jennifer." My stomach dropped. A woman named Sarah Voss called 2 days later. She dated Jennifer 4 years before Jennifer and I met. She claimed Jennifer had engaged in grooming adjacent behavior with her stepchildren. Nothing overtly sexual, but boundary crossing that felt predatory. When Sarah confronted Jennifer, Jennifer had manipulated the situation, so Sarah looked paranoid. Sarah had eventually left to protect her mental health, but she'd always wondered about those kids. "I'm not saying she did anything illegal," Sarah said, "but there's something off about her, something predatory." My world tilted again. I hired a private investigator who found concerning things. Not illegal, but concerning. Jennifer had been reported to CPS once, at 22, while babysitting. The allegation was unfounded, but it was there. He also found Jennifer had had unusually close friendships with multiple families with young children, friendships that had ended abruptly. Parents had reported feeling uncomfortable with her involvement. All circumstantial, all interpretable, but enough to make me deeply uncomfortable. I set up a hidden camera in Sophie's playroom. I know it was illegal. I did it anyway. I watched 3 days of recordings obsessively, looking for anything inappropriate, any red flag. I found nothing. Jennifer was affectionate but appropriate. She set boundaries. She encouraged independence, nothing predatory, but the seed was planted, and I couldn't unsee it. I ended the relationship. I couldn't explain why, without sounding paranoid. Jennifer left, confused and hurt. I let her believe the problem was our relationship dynamics, not my fear of what she might be capable of. 2 months later, Jennifer called me crying. "Why did you really break up with me?" I told her the truth. I told her about Sarah's allegations, Victoria's concerns, the investigator's report, everything. There was a long silence. "Your sister is sick," Jennifer said finally. Jennifer's brother is a therapist. He couldn't discuss specific patients. Confidentiality prevented that, but he had colleagues who knew about Victoria. She'd been presenting herself as a concerned sister, protecting a child. But her therapists had documented obsessive, controlling behavior toward me that had been escalating for years. It was all hearsay. Protected information being relayed through multiple people in violation of ethical guidelines. But it was potentially the key to understanding what had actually happened. I confronted Victoria directly. "I ended things with Jennifer, but I need you to explain what your concerns were based on." She couldn't, or wouldn't. She just insisted Jennifer was dangerous, that she was protecting Sophie, that I was too blinded by love to see the truth. "Do you hear yourself?" I asked. "You just spent a year accusing me of child abuse. You destroyed my life. And now you want me to make major decisions based on your gut feeling about someone who apparently did nothing wrong?" I know I'm right, Victoria said. And how many times have you been right before? I asked quietly. Remember your girlfriend in college you were sure was stealing from you? Your boss you thought was conspiring against you? Your ex-husband and the surveillance cameras? Victoria didn't speak to me for 2 years after that. But here's the thing, I never actually confirmed whether Jennifer was or wasn't a threat. I broke up with someone I cared about based on accusations that were ultimately unproven from a source that had already proven itself unreliable. Did I make the right decision? I genuinely don't know. What I do know is that my sister had identified my greatest vulnerability, my fear of failing to protect my daughter, and she exploited it perfectly. 7 years have passed. Sophie is now 17. She's in therapy for the trauma of being removed from her home and interrogated by strangers. She has anxiety about authority figures. She has difficulty trusting people, but she's doing well overall. I dated briefly after Jennifer, but nothing serious. I was too scared, too paranoid, too convinced I couldn't trust my own judgment. I haven't had contact with Victoria in 5 years. I learned through our aunt that she's been in and out of psychiatric facilities, that she's been formally diagnosed with what we suspected, factitious disorder by proxy, combined with OCD and narcissistic features. I'm told she's doing better now. Medication, long-term therapy. She's apparently expressed remorse, though it's been filtered through our aunt. I don't know how I feel about that. The thing that destroyed me wasn't the accusation. It was realizing my sister, who was supposed to have my back unconditionally, had deliberately tried to ruin my life. Not for money, not for revenge, because she couldn't regulate her own need for control and importance. And what keeps me up at night is this. Was Victoria wrong about Jennifer? Or did my sister somehow identify a genuine problem that I was too blind to see? I've tried to reach out to Jennifer over the years, but I could never do it. What would I even say? I'm sorry I broke up with you based on paranoia. Sophie asked about Jennifer a few years ago.
Crap.
Why did she disappear? She asked. Jennifer and I wanted different things, I told her. Sometimes adults make complicated decisions for complicated reasons. Do you still love her? Sophie asked. I don't know, I said honestly. I might have, but I was too scared to find out. That's the real tragedy. My sister didn't just accuse me of abuse. She stole my ability to trust my own judgment, my own feelings, my own relationships. She took my faith in people and she never gave it back. I'm 42 now. I'm a good nurse, a good father, stable, functional, successful by most measures, but I'm also someone who looks at people and wonders what they want from me. Someone who assumes the worst because I've learned the worst is always possible. Someone who destroyed a relationship with a woman I cared about based on warnings from someone I should have known better than to trust. And someone who 7 years later still doesn't know if I made the right call. Sophie will be 18 next month. I'm thinking about telling her the full truth, not the sanitized version, the actual truth about what her aunt did, about why Jennifer disappeared, about how my sister's lies shaped her childhood and my parenting in ways still reverberating today. I think she deserves to know. I think she's old enough to understand that sometimes people you love do terrible things for reasons that have nothing to do with you. That sometimes families are broken irreparably. That sometimes the people you're supposed to trust the most are the ones who hurt you deepest. What I'm struggling with is how to tell her that I'm not entirely sure whether I was the victim or the villain in this story. Victoria stole 7 years of my life, but more importantly, she stole my certainty about who I am as a person and as a parent. The question everyone asks me, the question that keeps this story alive, is simple. Do you forgive her? And the honest answer is, I don't know. How can you forgive someone for revealing you to yourself in ways you never wanted to be revealed? The only thing I'm certain of is this: I can't trust my own judgment anymore. And I'm not sure that's something I'll ever get back.